All right, thank you everyone for joining this month's Eloqua user group meeting. We have a great agenda for you today, so we'll go ahead and get started. If I can advance. Okay, there we go. So a little bit about me. First, my name is Kristin Connell. I am with Sojourn Solutions. I am the acting host today as KP is on a well-deserved break this week. Just a little bit about myself. She always does such a great intro. I was trying to replicate a little bit of that. But on the far left, me and my family, my son, who is going to be a sophomore in college this year, my daughter, who is a senior in high school, and my husband, who has been in the Salesforce ecosystem for years and years. It's actually kind of sort of how we met 20 some years ago. So that's us. My four-legged baby there in the middle. Loki, I have two mini Aussie doodles. My coworkers, I guess I could say as well, because they're always right around my chair during the day. He lives up to his namesake, Loki. You can tell by the look. He typically gets what he wants. And then my favorite food group is tacos. That happens to be a street taco from a local food truck here where I am based in Olathe, Kansas. One of my favorite kind of getaway lunch times is to go visit them. Olathe is just outside of Kansas City, the Kansas City Metro, kind of on the border of Kansas City and Missouri. So that's where I'm at. I guess from a Eloqua Creds perspective, I have been in the Eloqua ecosystem since 2007. I got started with management consulting. My first training with 4 or 5 others was back at a consulting agency then in Dallas. Spent about 4 years there working with some amazing customers, with an amazing team. Decided at that point I wanted to go back client side. Found an Eloqua client based out of Herndon, Virginia. I stayed in Kansas, so it was a great remote setup for 5-ish years. We did a lot of great things, had a Eloqua Marquee nomination and then an Eloqua Marquee win during my time there. I gotta say that, right? Like, how many other times can you actually say that? So I had to fit that in. But then decided that it was time to get back into consulting. As I left the client side, I was building out marketing operations teams and practices and guidelines. So came back over to Sojourn, a lot of the same folks that I had worked with previously, and continue to work with clients in and around Eloqua and other types of projects, and now handle a lot of the marketing ops and communications and such for Sojourn. So just a little bit about myself. So for our agenda today, we're going to start with just relevant reminders to keep you in the Eloqua know. We're going to have highlights on Eloqua's 22C release that's upcoming soon by Oracle's Thamina Christensen. We'll have a walkthrough of closed loop reporting, an overview and tips by Sojourn Steve McConnell, and then we'll open it up to see if there's any questions or if anyone has any tips or tricks they'd like to share with the group. So, and I guess if you have any questions during the call, please feel free to just put those into chat. I'll keep an eye on both the chat and the Q&A so that I can respond to those as quickly as possible. All right, so first, what KP typically does here is kind of spotlights like what's going on in the world. Is there like a national day, this or that? For August, what decided I wanted to spotlight was how we could help those either looking for jobs or looking for people for jobs. So the layoff reports, I'm on LinkedIn every day, and actually even outside of LinkedIn, I'm seeing layoff reports across all channels, from all company sizes, from all industries. And I think one thing as a user group, I thought what we could do is just address this real quickly to say, like, maybe how can you help within our own Eloqua marketing community and even the extended marketing community. So just 3 tips. If your company is hiring, if you want to share your company's marketing related job postings on LinkedIn and just tag Sojourn Solutions, the company, we will share that within our community and move that forward. if you or marketing colleagues are searching for jobs, I recommend if you make the updates to your LinkedIn profile where you can actually add the open to work. If you're actually completely open. If you're not, you can actually set the settings so that just recruiters only can see that. But if you make those updates with your LinkedIn profile with all of the activity, for example, the hiring hashtag on LinkedIn right now has almost 3 million followers. So it's just, I think, a great place. Not affiliated with LinkedIn in any way, other than I am a fan in terms of what's going on with the LinkedIn community right now and how they're helping to support not just people out of jobs with marketing community, but across all focuses. Finally, the last point here is just something that I've picked up. Matt Hines, friend and colleague, on his LinkedIn profile, he's basically inviting people to DM him and ask for the list. So he, at some point, and a group have put together this great people now available list. So if you're hiring and are looking for great people that have been added to that list, DM Matt and ask to get access to the list. If you're looking for a job and would like to be added to the list, again, this is just a community sourced, completely organic kind of outreach point that has been set up. I just recommend it. Matt's good people. A lot of the folks I've been reading through on his posts are really good people. And so I just wanted to highlight that all here. Let's see, just real quick. Oh, got a question we can address later. Great. Anyway, so if anyone has any questions, also I just wanted to follow up. If anyone has any questions on, I don't really do a lot on LinkedIn, but how do I update my profile? Feel free to reach out to me, LinkedIn, Kristin Connell, connect with me. I'd be happy to walk you through some tips there. I also have some posts coming up where I'm actually going to be posting that on my profile itself. All right. Yeah. So the importance of this, it just really calls to me when we see what's going on specifically on LinkedIn with people helping people get connected. Love to see that, and hopefully all of you can somehow get to be a part of that. Okay, let's get into the rest of the agenda, the relevant reminders. So we're going to be speaking to the release. Thamina is going to be speaking to that more specifically coming up here soon. So we had just dropped in the actual schedule here. Also coming up, Oracle Marketing Summit at Cloud World. That registration is open, has been open. That conference will be in Vegas, October 17th through 20th, is in person only. We have a link here for you. We'll get that sent out. Eloqua's product management team at Oracle has Eloqua's Tip Tuesday content that they are doing each week and promoting through Topliners, Eloqua's community. It's a great way to get some very quick tips and tricks. The Sojourn team has a couple in there, shout out, but there's a bunch of others. It's a great way to just dive right into some really quick fixes on things. The Eloqua's Insiders group on Topliners, again, Topliners being Eloqua's community within Oracle. Definitely recommend, if you're not already a part of the Insiders group, to log into Topliners and ask to get joined up. That's just going to get you notifications on product announcements, as things come up with release dates, roadmaps, information that's shared there, etc. Also access to some of the groups and Topliners that you may not previously have access to. There's also some free training that KP highlights here through the Help Center, through Eloqua, Oracle University, and then Eloqua's YouTube channel. So if you're just getting started, or maybe you're not in Eloqua all the time and just want to refresh on some things, these are some great resources provided by Eloqua across these 3 different channels that you can access. As always, if you miss one of our Eloqua user groups that we have scheduled live, we always send out the recorded link if you've registered, and we also have all of the recorded sessions live in our resources center on sojournsolutions.com. All right, so with that, I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to Thamina to walk through the, actually, the release notes. Thamina?
Great. Thank you, Kristin. It's good to be here. One thing that I want to emphasize is that Explorer training that you mentioned, the free 1-hour training. We often have customers ask us, hey, we have someone new in our team. Is there some free training without buying the full education pass? I've even done the Explorer training because I wanted to see what it was like. So it's something that is good for people, especially if they're trying to get a quick overview into what Eloqua is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so even I've taken the training, wanted to make sure.
Well, I'm going to sign up now because I have not gotten into my schedule this year yet. So
yeah. Also just wasn't planning on sharing this, but you talked a lot about layoffs, and as many people know, Oracle had some layoffs across the organization. And Oracle also is hiring. And you should know that many of our team members that we had to let go have also now find new jobs right inside Oracle. So some of our people that were laid off actually are still with Oracle. They're just now in different roles. They were just let go from our organization and joined another. So that was something really great that Oracle did, is working with our own team members to find new roles right within Oracle. So I wanted to share that because I worked for Oracle, and I was proud of our company for helping people that were let go to find roles right within the company in other places that were hiring. So there was a lot of people. Our fastest person was, they were notified their job was let go on Monday, and by Friday they had a transfer already in place for another place in the organization. So there's great things that are happening. Companies are hiring, different industries are hiring. So as we work with our community to help one another, that is benefit to all of us. I find that the marketing community is very tight-knit, and we're very good at one another. So I appreciate that shout out and that call out to helping one another. We are talking about 22C. At this time, most of you may have already gotten it, but because of some infrastructure updates that we wanted to put in place with part of 22C, we delayed the release because we wanted to do a little bit more testing. We know that many years ago, it was brace yourself, there's an Eloqua release coming, and we've been working for the past couple of years to make sure that releases are seamless for our customers, that there isn't a panic and oh no, what just happened, what just changed. And I will tell you, internally on our numbers, for the past, I think, 8 releases, we've had much smoother releases and many less customer disruptions. So we have spent a lot of time in working on that quality so that you all have a better experience. So these dates may look a little bit later than you're used to, but that's just because we're doing some more testing and firming up to make sure you have a smooth release as well. There are some product notices that we have within the Topliners community, specifically around MD5 hash identifier, because we're upgrading to a new hash identifier. Some things around the API endpoints. We are adding data retention to form submission data in Insight. It's still a 25-month data retention, but think about who have had Eloqua for 10 years. And that data was starting to slow people's systems down. So we do have a data retention now within Insight for form submissions only. And we are doing a controlled availability with our automated certificate management that is still going to be rolling out. It'll take time, probably a year, to get everybody rolled out and onboarded as we invite new groups to be part of that. What this means for all of you is all of your links are going to be secured automatically. You're no longer going to have to work through support to secure your microsites, your image domains, your app domains, first-party cookie tracking domains. It'll all be just done automatically. So we're in the process of rolling that out, and you may receive communications when it's time for your group to be enabled with that, or you may need to make a couple of changes to be part of that rollout. So watch for communications related to that. But our Topliners community does talk about this specifically in the product notice area. And you can, once again, find the product notices there, either using that bit.ly link or QR code if you want to grab it on your phone. As emphasized, we do have Marketing Summit, and it'll be in Vegas. The nice thing about this is it's going to be in the new Caesars Forum, I think is what it is. And so it's a brand new convention center type place. The setup looks really nice. So jumping right into 22C updates. There's going to be a lot around SMS. We have found that even in a B2B world, SMS is becoming more relevant as people are looking at other channels to communicate, to confirm, or to respond. So we've implemented some new functionality with our SMS, which includes custom and help keyword types. So that helps with, additional to opt-in, opt-out types that are already available. So being able to do help or custom, then we can do some other event responses related to those keyword types. So think about if you, on your phone, you text help, we can have the marketer can set up a custom response that now is available for that help or a type of custom response. Folder management. We didn't have folder management at the beginning because people were just starting out with this, but we've now implemented folder management, or it will be coming with 22C. Essentially, DLT template. This is relevant to India. So very specifically, in an effort to not spam people or malicious type responses, marketers are required to have this DLT template in place for review, and then that once that has been reviewed, it can be selected for outbound and response messages. So this is very specific to India, but if any of you are messaging and using SMS in India, this is an important feature and functionality for you as you are being compliant. I'm the data compliance guru on the team, so I'm all about how we do things in the best compliant way. We have some new reporting in Insight. So that includes SMS activities and rates. So as you start to adopt using SMS, there are now some reports and subject areas for you to be able to leverage related to SMS. We had a lot of questions around the auto open and auto clicks and the reporting related to that. So we've actually added more subject areas related to this so that as you look at your reports, you can see your opens, but you can also see how many auto opens happened and how many auto clicks happened. That was something that people really wanted to see and get a comparison on overall, what their real opens and auto opens were related to this. Virtual MTA, this is if you have multiple sending IPs. This is really specific if you're a high volume sender. High volume is 50 million or more emails a month. Or if you are multiple brands and you're choosing a different VMTA, a different IP for sending by your brand name. And this helps you start to see some of those email details based on the VMTA now. So that is a new subject area as well. And once again, you really won't really see this or see any results if you don't have this functionality configured. Once again, if you're just having one IP, sending by one IP, this isn't relevant to you. But I am seeing a lot more customers that are needing our multiple brands set up. I am the one that approves all of those and reviews all of those. So I'm starting to see a little bit more of that come through. So this is going to be beneficial and helpful for those customers. Speaking of reporting, Oracle has a product called Oracle Fusion Analytics Warehouse. We have now an integration with them that provides analytics for multiple cloud applications. So if you're using, for example, Service Cloud and Sales Cloud, now with Eloqua as well, then you can easily combine all the metrics for some centralized reporting. There's some pre-built metrics and reports that are specific to Eloqua, but there's also ways that you can create your own dashboards and reporting as you are using multiple Oracle Fusion products. This does require you to have Fusion Analytics Warehouse, but because we have a lot of customers moving towards centralized Oracle Suite, many of them do have this. We've also added functionality around the syncing with CRM campaign. So currently when the CRM campaign sync is enabled and a new campaign is created in Eloqua, this campaign will be immediately synced to CRM. However, the CRM campaign ID field on campaign canvas is not updated automatically. So as a result, if users save or verify the campaign, the value of the CRM campaign ID can be overwritten. And so with 22C, the campaign canvas will now detect if there's been a change. And if not, no value will be sent for the CRM campaign ID so that we can prevent overriding of that value. This was a pain point for some customers, and we've been able to fix that. We've also updated some APIs. So we're adding a new property is updating CRM ID that indicates if that CRM ID is being updated to the application API upon campaign endpoint. And this is important because it relates to the functionality that I mentioned before. So that thinking about this in terms, especially if you're using our APIs, so it can be included in updated campaign. It can only be set to true or false. It's not included in the updated campaign request. It will be set to true if CRA and CRM ID will be updated related to that. If it's set to false and CRM ID is included, then it will be ignored and not be updated. So some updates around this. There is a product notice so that those of you who are API experts can read a little bit more about that. But once again, this functionality is related to the screen before related to that CRM ID. We are deprecating SOAP API. You can see the change log for full list of changes. This actually, support ended for this actually in April 2017, so many years ago, but we are now deleting the code related to this. So it's nothing that should be impacting any of you, but because we do have people using APIs, we just need everyone to be aware, though support ended, now this code is going to be deleted. So hopefully you are not using our SOAP API. Once again, we talked about the sunset of the MD5 hash identifier. It's because we are now having SHA-256 hash identifiers for general availability. So you don't need PM approval for any of this, and the MD5 will be deprecated. So this is one of the last items I'm going to talk about. I left it to the end because I think there might be some questions, but it's also an example of something that as we were looking to fix one item, we realized, hey, we could actually support a couple of use cases. In the HTML code editor, you were always able to hyperlink telephone or manually hyperlink mail to, but you could never track these the way it was built out because they weren't necessarily system. The mail to was a system link, but if you manually created it, wasn't necessarily system. If you tried to use it in the drag and drop editor in a web address URL, it was always adding HTTP to it. And it was basically not usable in this way. So what we've done is we've added support for additional redirect URLs related to that, meaning you can now track telephone links and telephone click-through links. If you wanted to manually type a mail to link, you could do that. We also have some other schemes related to this. And this is also in place as we look at other, I'm going to call them privacy browsers. For example, there's something called a Me browser that we know that it's a privacy browser that uses, in this sense, this type of web address configuration, and wanting to be able to support future functionality that comes through like that. So this is something as we are proactively looking at data privacy and how we could better be suited for the future, also realize this is going to help some common questions that we found in topliners related to how can I track a telephone click? I personally tested this to see how it worked because I knew it was a pain point and I wanted to make sure that everything was working correctly. So this is also coming in 22C. We do have our topliners updates. As mentioned, we do have the Eloqua Tip Tuesday. that we send out, just trying to give quick ways to leverage and use the system. Other resources that want to remind you about, we do have a release resource center, a Topliners community, and if you want Eloqua release emails, you can specifically sign up for those as well. And that is all I have for my section. I know that there is some Q&A questions, and I'll plan on addressing those specifically. Well, let me address, there's a couple that are non-related to the roadmap or to the release, but let me address those that are in the release. So I asked about, it's been asked, is Eloqua has tracking for mail to and telephone? We have tracking to reply or reply to emails. That is different. The reason being is we are not in charge of the reply and reply to emails. This is related to the individual email system. So for example, if you sent an email to Gmail and that Gmail person replies to you, Gmail is in charge of that tracking type of information. So I know the request and that need for tracking replies, but because of the way email systems work, that's not something that we can control. So we don't have that available right now. So yeah, and when we get to the end, I'll talk about Preference Center because I have a few comments related to that. So I want to give Steve time, and then I can help with that Q&A after.
Awesome. Also, shout out on the auto opens. Awesome new on auto opens was a shout out there on the, I think it was SMS. So
yeah.
Woohoo. All right. So we are now going to switch over. Thank you, Thamina. And introduce Steve McConnell from Sojourn's team to do a overview and tips on Eloqua's closed loop reporting. Steve.
All right. Thanks, Kristin. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay, see me okay, see my screen okay. If not, do let me know. And yeah, as we said, we're going to start talking about Eloqua closed loop reporting, overview and tips. I'm going to take you through that now. So the kind of, we're aiming this session at kind of people who are aware of closed loop reporting. Maybe you've heard of closed loop reporting. Maybe you are not super familiar with exactly what it means. Maybe you're a little bit further along with that journey and you're actually at the point where you're looking to implement it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the theory of closed loop reporting. Then we're going to really quickly jump into Eloqua and show you some of the configuration settings that you'll need to set up if you want to use closed loop reporting in Eloqua. A couple little screenshots of the kind of dashboards and things that you can run. And then I'll turn it over to Q&A. It'll be the end of the session there for anyway, so we can throw that open to pretty much any topic. So let me just go through the slides and let us talk about the loop. So this is kind of for people who maybe have not are not fully exactly precisely familiar with what exactly closed loop reporting does and what that entails. One of the prerequisites if you want to set up closed loop reporting in Eloqua is you need to be using the Eloqua campaigns integration. So that would be where instead of, for example, embedding campaign IDs onto a form that goes into a program which determines the campaign association, you need to have the campaigns entities in Eloqua and Salesforce talking to each other directly. So if this looks a little bit different from your setup, that might be why. And we're just kind of assuming that you've met that prerequisite before we start this diagram. So the way it works is the workflow will be the marketer starts off creating a campaign in Eloqua. And when you've got that Salesforce integration enabled, that will automatically create a campaign in Salesforce as well. And now those two campaigns are talking to each other. They have fields in common, they have metrics in common, and they're kind of talking across the dividing line there. When a Eloqua contact comes along and they click an email or they submit a form or you use an external activity, for example, in your campaign, that's going to be counted as a campaign response, which is something that you'll have set up in Eloqua if you're using this campaigns integration. And what that's going to do is it's going to, if there's a CRM lead, for example, in Salesforce, it's going to create a campaign member record for that campaign response. And the campaign member status is going to reflect what they did. So maybe you've got quite a fancy setup and you're able to differentiate between webinar attendances and registrations. That's what that campaign member will give you. So when sales pick up this process, they're going to pick up that lead and they're going to convert that lead. Most of the time, some people have different setups. Most of the time, they're going to convert that lead into a contact. And now the contact retains that linkage to the campaign member. So we've still got that idea of where that kind of opportunity came from. And what they'll do when they create the contact is they'll link it to an account, which is the business that you're doing business with, and they're going to link it to an opportunity. The opportunity is where the money comes in. So when sales are able to kind of put a number on what they think that person is going to spend, that will go into the opportunity, as well as the stage the opportunity is at. So how likely is this to close? Is it a negotiation? Is it a kind of proposal stage? That information is all in the opportunity. In order to prove the commercial impact of marketing, this is the loop that you have to close. How are you going to connect the opportunities, which is where all the money is, back to your campaign activity, your campaign responses, and everything else in this diagram? That's the challenge that we're hoping to solve with closed loop reporting. So one of the kind of first steps people tend to take on this journey of attributing that commercial value back to marketing activity is they'll do manual attribution. Manual attribution is what a lot of people are going to be familiar with, which is that the salespeople are supposed to, in Salesforce, link the opportunities back to the campaigns manually. And that's usually done by sales or sales operations teams. A little arrow to represent that. Manual attribution can be difficult as sales may not have enough information or time to complete that process. That was the most diplomatic way I could think to say that. You probably all know what I mean. And so
read between the lines, right?
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that can happen if you've got a manual attribution situation going on, and even if your salespeople are making that effort to at least link a campaign to the opportunity, it's one campaign. And that may prevent what's called MTA, multi-touch attribution, where you're looking at multiple things that may have influenced that opportunity. So that's kind of manual attribution. That's where this journey starts a lot of the time. With Eloqua closed loop reporting, basically what we do is we take the data from these little data tables here, and we bring them all into Eloqua. So we bring in your campaigns, we bring in your opportunities, we bring in your accounts and contacts, link it all up together in a way that we can decide how Eloqua links it all up together. With multiple attribution models, multiple revenue splits or contacts of opportunity associations. And it just kind of figures it all out for you. That's the idea anyway, is that it's going to deliver you an ROI number for that campaign without you having to intervene in any kind of manual way. And that will just close the loop, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to talk about next, and I know there's a couple of questions in the chat, I'm going to come back to those at the end, just so because I might be about to say what you're asking about. What we're going to do next is I'm going to jump into Eloqua really quick, and we're just going to look at some of the configuration that you have to do in Eloqua to actually enable disclosure reporting, because it's a little bit hard to find. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and reshare just to make sure it's showing you the correct thing. And jump into Eloqua really quick. So hopefully you guys should all be able to see an Eloqua instance now. Is that looking okay?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. Now, the reason I wanted to start here on this campaigns menu, you're probably thinking, oh, there's a campaigns menu. I've seen this a million billion times. There's no hidden button or anything on there. What's this? Did you ever see this before? I hadn't until I started setting up closed loop reporting. There is this little hidden button on the campaigns menu. Who knew? But in order to set up closed loop reporting, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go in there and you're going to need to set up your opportunity settings. Now, this is all detailed in Oracle's documentation. So if you go onto Google and just type in configuring Eloqua closed loop reporting, there's a big guide that takes you through all of this step by step with screenshots. What I'm doing now is I'm just dipping in to kind of show you an example and show you a couple of the different options you have for setting this up. So once you've clicked that little magic button, what that's going to do is take you into this area, which is the opportunity settings. And this is kind of where you need to configure a lot of the key things that you'll need for closed loop reporting. Now, remember, we're assuming that you've already got your campaigns integration running. So you're going to have your campaign responses set up in Eloqua. Those are going to be mapping back over to Salesforce. If you're not familiar with that bit I just said, do reach out to us and we can take you through it. But we're assuming you've set that bit up already. The other things you're going to need to set up in Eloqua are your opportunity stage details, your contact to opportunity association, and your revenue attribution method. So the first of those, setting up opportunity stages, this is related to your funnel, right? Your sales and marketing funnel. So when sales receive a lead and they create an opportunity, the opportunity has a status or a stage on it, which will progress through and eventually turn out as closed won or closed lost. And that's one of the two outcomes, but there's stages in the middle. So what we're doing here with the opportunity stages is just reflecting what it says in Salesforce. And it doesn't need to be any different. We just reflect. So you can see here, I've just set up some example stages here. Negotiation, which has got a 20% probability of closing. I just chucked these in. Proposal, 30%. Closed won, 100%, and closed lost. And you can see there's an indicate closed lost tick mark. If I want to add a new opportunity stage, I just click the little plus, give it a name, give it a percentage, and if it is the closed lost stage, of which you can only have one, well, you might have a couple, I suppose, depending on your setup, then you can tick that box. Hopefully that makes sense. We're familiar with the opportunity stages. The next thing we need to configure in order for this to work is we need to set our contact to opportunity association. So just to explain that and think about this for a second, the way we represent businesses and people in Salesforce is people are contacts, and contacts are always linked to an account. Now that account might be a whole company. It might be a division of a company. It depends how your Salesforce is set up. And then when people are creating opportunities, the opportunities have to be linked to an account. And that's how you find the connection between the opportunities, the accounts, and the contacts, and what they did in the marketing campaign so that you can link it all together. So you need to think about this and be sure that you're using the correct option. But I'm going to go in here and look at the options we've got. So association of opportunities, campaigns using contacts. The options are, we can say the primary contact associated to the opportunity in CRM. So that's when the salesperson's actually linked the person they're talking to the opportunity. That's the person we're going to associate this with and nobody else. We've got all contacts associated to the opportunity in CRM. So that's if you have multiple, I believe they're called opportunity contact roles set up in connection. And that's opportunity contact role or the contact role. That's how you connect contacts to opportunities. So I'm talking to Dave's washing machines and the guy I'm speaking to is Dave. But you can also have other people on the opportunity, like Dave's the primary contact, but I'm also talking to Kate because Kate's the head of marketing and we're looking at a marketing solution for that. So this is the second option, all contacts associated to the opportunity in CRM. So the third option, and you've got to be careful with this one, but it could be really useful as well. All contacts in Eloqua associated to the account that is associated to the opportunity in CRM. So again, the reason you need to be careful about that one is because some companies are really, 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 really big. And just because, you know, Dave in the London office clicked an email, that doesn't mean it influenced Jane in the Texas office when she bought something. So those are the three options you've got there. Now you might be thinking, none of those is quite appropriate for my business. And that's when you probably have to look at something like basically taking all of the Eloqua data, all of the Salesforce data out, pulling it in something like Tableau or Power BI, and having some wizard-like developer who knows how to make a report to attribute the opportunities and this stuff together in exactly the way you define for your business. But this is like a best practice. This is what people normally want, one of these options kind of configuration. Closing that out, I'm just going to go and have a look at the last thing you need to set up in the opportunity settings, which is the attribution model that you're going to use. So this is, you've got an opportunity, the opportunity has closed, and the company made £1 billion. So how do you want to decide all of the different marketing touch points that somebody had that could be linked back to that opportunity? How should those weigh in the analysis? Was it the first campaign or the last campaign or all of them? How do you want to do that? So these are the options you have to control that. So you can say all campaign responses from lead creation in Eloqua to opportunity close in CRM. So that's a time duration, right? So it's looking at when did the campaign responses start happening after that lead was created, following that through all the way to the opportunity being closed. That's what it's going to include. Or you can say campaign responses from lead creation in Eloqua to only opportunity creation in CRM. So that's like, how much do you think your marketing is influencing the closing of the opportunity after you've passed the lead to sales? And it may be that you're like, actually, that's nothing to do with us. If sales can't close it, that's their problem. Or you might say, well, no, we're nurturing these people and doing retargeting campaigns. And so we probably helped that lead close. So we need to use the first option. Then what you've got is the actual revenue distribution. So the options are, and I think these are fairly self-explanatory, evenly across all campaigns. All revenue to the first campaign the contacts responded to, all revenue to the last campaign the contacts responded to, or custom, i.e. 25% to first, 25% to last, and then split evenly amongst the rest. And this is where you can get pretty sophisticated with it if you want to. Things to think about here. Think about how your channels are going to come out in this analysis, right? So something to think about with email. Email is always going to happen later in the journey because you can't send someone an email until you've got their email address. Whereas a search campaign you might do, that's more likely to be the first point of contact where somebody comes in. So that's one of the things you want to think about. Where do my channels happen in the journey? And therefore, how are things going to come out when I set up my attribution model? And also, just think about things like your lead time. You understand your marketing funnel and your sales funnel a lot better than I do, and which of these would be most appropriate for you. But we could just go ahead and say, yeah, 25% to first, 50% to middle, 25% to last, or change that to 50, changes to 25. Obviously, it has to add up to 100. And then you can save that and close it. And you set up your default revenue attribution. So those are the kind of esoteric settings in Eloqua that you have to know about to do this. And I thought I'd just highlight those because I think a lot of you guys will be familiar with a lot of the other ones like campaign response rules, etc., because you will have had to set that up to be considering closed loop reporting. So just to wrap up, I just want to show you what kind of you can achieve once you've got that all set up. I don't actually have a dashboard I can show you, I'm afraid, but some of the information that you can get is you can get attributed revenue by top campaigns, influence revenue by top campaigns, total possible revenue, total closed revenue. If you go onto the Oracle documentation page on closed loop reporting dashboard, it gives you the full list of metrics that you can have, and there are quite a few. That's quite rich data you can get about how your campaigns are influencing the revenue you're creating. And you can, I forgot about this paragraph, you can put filters in the dashboard. So yeah, that's everything from me. Thank you guys very much for your attention. And I'll just go ahead and, well, we're actually at the the final part of the itinerary. So I'll hand back to Kristin, and we can go ahead and throw it up into Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And FYI, everyone, Thamina dropped in the link to Eloqua's in the Eloqua Help Center on closed loop reporting, so you can reference that and dive into some of the additional details there. Excellent presentation, Steve. I think, can I grab back the presenting? There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't think I
No, no
was holding it.
worries. Also, it's good to see that there, oh, I guess we don't want to show this screen though. Good to see there's not the screen either. There we go. Another hand talker. Talking with your hands. It kind of gets lost in the translation sometimes with the technologies, but I am a big hand talker as well. So
my thing
high
is
five.
like, I'm kind of going, pay attention to me. That's my thinking. It's really that kind of level.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we do have some questions. So thank you for those who have put some questions in here. I think there was, do you want to start like with the first one here? It says, can we touch on some implications for changing existing email preference center? So Thamina, did you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, first off, there's some nuance in what do you mean by changing existing email preference center and what that means. Because the biggest thing related to that is making sure that you have the right opt-in that you're managing. I meant to send this to everyone, and I actually only sent it to the panelists, but Spam House, which is, you know, the leading block list around email sending, is being very explicit about changes that they're making. And one of the things that they are talking about is, you know, you can get blocklisted for sending to recipients without who have never given consent. Oftentimes we think of this about just a GDPR related setting, but because ISPs look at things globally, they are specifically looking at, you know, that opt-in strategy. So implications for changing in that, hey, I'm not going to do explicit opt-in anymore. You know, considering some things as guidelines, I'm like, implications could be your deliverability reputation is hit. So that's why I said there are nuances related to that question. So Alina, if you wanted to elaborate on what those nuances are, I can help address that. But the biggest thing I would say is things that we need to think about, especially in those who have not been explicitly affected by GDPR, is really starting to think about, how do I make sure I have an opt-in strategy? How do I make sure that I clean up and not sending to people that have not even just like engaged, like people, you know, that are, there's no engagement that's ever happening. If you've sent somebody an email for a year and they haven't opened, clicked, visited your website or anything, it might be okay to let those people go. Because as you start targeting people who have opted in, who are engaged, who want to hear from you, that means that the response to your sending domains, your brand reputation is going to be looked upon favorably, and then you can continue to get better deliverability related to just your configurations. One other link I want to share with everybody, Spam House has also done a FAQ. I would take a look at the section titled how not to do what spammers do, because I think that'll be good in helping define how you're thinking about email sending. But this is configuration, but also thinking about how you're sending in connection with the other article about opt-in strategy. So those are some things that I think are helping. The big implications, once again, are around, are you implementing best practices for 2022, 2023? Side note, I worked with a customer about a year ago or 6 months ago, COVID years, I never know the time frame anymore, who who was having poor deliverability. And I looked at what they were doing and I had a meeting with them and gave them some suggestions. And their comment was, this is how you guys told us to set it up. Why do we have to change it? And I tried to politely ask, when did you get this set up? And they said 2015. And I said, okay, I'm giving you advice for 2022, ISPs, Spamhaus. Spamhaus used to do some things manually. They're implementing some automatic block listing controls that just happened in the last month. Gmail's made changes, Apple's made changes, everybody's making changes. And so the best practices we're giving you are for what the industry is doing today. And the guidance that we give are, here's how you can, improve your reputation for email sending. But once again, it's scary to not email people who are in your database. And I would suggest, if they aren't responding to you, and even if you ask them to explicitly opt in and you still don't hear from them, it's okay to let them go, because let's engage with the people who do want to hear from you, are wanting to listen to your brand, are engaged with your sales team. That is going to be more beneficial overall than trying to, those people that no matter who knocks on their door, they're never going to answer that door.
Yeah, I think I can just visualize the blog post that comes out of that, Thamina. It's okay to let them go. That's the title.
Okay.
Like, I have to work on it a little bit, maybe tweak, but yes, great insights there. Let's go ahead and move on. We had a couple other questions that we wanted to address. We had one on dynamic reporting. So dynamic content reporting, is there a way to create a single report that reports unique opens and clicks for all links, both dynamic and non-dynamic?
I am not 100% sure, because I need to go look at how our dynamic content reporting is set up. If there is a subject area, then yes, there should be a way to take a look at that, but there's not going to be an out-of-the-box type report. It's going to be very much a custom type report that you would need to create with for yourself. I just don't remember if we have a dynamic content subject area. I'm going to quickly look that up.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Thamina. I was going to have to say I would have to look that one up as well.
Have our help docs ready to go. So
we do have another one coming through, it looks like, for CLR. So, Steve, yeah. So the question is, do you have to have ops and accounts synced between Eloqua and CRM, or can it just pull from the campaign details if the campaign is synced? So Steve, you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. So in order for Eloqua to figure out all the different linkages between all the different information that you need to attribute the revenue back to the contact, yes, you will need accounts and opportunities syncing into Eloqua as well. The accounts is set up just like you'd be syncing in contacts or leads or something. It's you just sync it into the dedicated Eloqua account object. If you're not doing that already, get some really, really good marketing opportunities by doing that anyway. So for example, you can see the linkages between contacts and accounts and segment based on account information. You can do Eloqua account matching and see if new people coming into Eloqua could be associated with one of your accounts that's already in the system. So definitely do that anyway. For opportunities, what I showed you there with the opportunity settings, yeah, you'll need to set that up, but it is a little bit different to something else you can do in Eloqua, which is syncing the opportunities into a custom object. This is actually syncing into Eloqua's actual opportunity object, which it has one of, it turns out. It's kind of a little bit different setup. Probably best to speak to the person you normally speak to at Sojourn to kind of dig into that a little bit more. But yes, you will need to import all of that information.
All right, thank you, Steve. It looks like Thamina has dropped in a resource here in the chat regarding the dynamic content subject area. Looks like good news. Awesome. Okay, is CLR included with an enterprise license, or is it an add-on? Do we know?
Sorry, I didn't.
Is that?
We crackled a bit there,
Oh,
Kristin.
I'm
Could you just
sorry.
repeat that?
Yeah, the latest question is closed loop reporting included with an enterprise license, or is it an add-on? Do we know that, or we follow up?
I do not believe it is an add-on. I think it just.
Yeah, I think it's just you configure it,
With an enterprise license?
any license.
Yeah, I think it's a
Oh.
license.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull up our service descriptions, but I think I'm getting an error. So I don't think it's an add-on. I think you can just create it.
Well, there you go. Okay, let's see. Yes, says it is included in dashboards and insight reporting. Is that, oh, if you're looking for it, Thamina, that's the kind of the footprint. If you're looking for where do you go, you look at your in dashboards and insight reporting, you should be able to locate where you get started with the CLR.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're 2 minutes. Do we have anything we have not shared yet? Looks like we've covered all the questions. Let's see. Have some information in chat. So just real briefly, our next Eloqua user group meeting is September 15th. If we have your email, you're going to get an invitation, which if you're on this call, we should probably have your email. We'll send that out so you can get it on your calendar. We also post reminders in our social channels on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, LinkedIn being that primary. If you have any feedback for today's meeting, if you have an idea for a topic that you'd like for us to address and bring in the experts to do so like we did today, if you would like to present a topic yourself, something that you're particularly interested or passionate about, please feel free to reach out to Karen or myself. Karen is out till the 1st of September, but I am in. So either karen.pendle@sojournsolutions.com and she'll respond when she returns to the office, or myself, Kristin.Connell, Kristin with an I, 2 L's and Connell @sojournsolutions.com. I'd be happy to get engaged with you on any or all of those in terms of the feedback. Looks like we might have one more Q&A. Oh, thank you. You are welcome. Oh, and Thomas also reported on that. So we will be sending out the recorded session today in our follow-up email. And then give me a little bit of time there to get that recording. I'll get all that sent out to everyone. And then we will get the registration page turned around so that if you'd like to go ahead and register for next month's user group, you'll be able to do so as soon as we get that done as well. So if there's nothing else, thank you all for joining today. Really appreciate it. We will be posting the jobs. We had a couple folks that shared in the Q&A that their companies are hiring. Just real quickly, if you've not looked at those, it looks like, let's see, Fiona, you had a job. If someone's is located in Barcelona, you're looking to hire for your team. And then Amy at FIS said that they're also hiring. I will look to include those tags in our follow-up email. We'll also do a shout out on our LinkedIn company page. So if you're following that, you should see those there as well. Thank you all for contributing those. Really appreciate it. I know I'm over 1 minute. Sojourn Solutions is also hiring. If I don't say that, I actually might lose my job. So I will send out that link as well if you're looking, if you're currently looking or know people that are looking for new positions. So thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.